Labor says if elected to lead the next government, it will allow Inland Revenue to impose penalties on companies that are deliberately structuring their business to avoid tax here in New Zealand. Andrew Little says a government led by him would claw back an extra $600 million in tax over 3 years. To tell us how it will all work, Mr Little is in our Auckland studio. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Guy.
How will it work?
It's very easy. I mean, we go to the companies and we say, we don't think you're paying enough tax. We have that discussion with them, just as they did in the UK. If that doesn't work, then we enact a diverted profits tax enactment. The impact of that in the UK was immediately most of the multinational companies just started paying tax that they previously weren't paying. But the way that works is you look at their revenue, you look at the size of the company, the Inland Revenue nominates a level of tax that looks about right for that size of company. And if they've got it wrong, then it's up to the company to then demonstrate that Inland Revenue's got it wrong. What
rate will the diverted profits tax be set at?
Well, it's not a rate. It's you look at a number of factors, and the Inland Revenue then has the job of nominating what they think is the right amount of tax given the factors surrounding that company, and then notifies the company that's the tax owing. If there's something wrong on that, if the company has got some reason why it has paying an unusually low level of tax given the turnover that it's got, then it's up to it to prove that.
So there's no set level of diverted profits tax rate.
There's no set rate. It's about looking at the size of the company in terms of turnover, in terms of size of operations, staff, all those sorts of things, and then gauging what would be a comparable rate of tax that companies domiciled in that country.
But they still pay tax on their profit rather than their staff numbers or anything else. I mean, you pay tax on profit currently, don't you?
Well,
not on revenue.
What ordinarily a company doing its tax returns properly you'd pay on the profit, yes, but the whole thing about diverted profits tax is that you're dealing with multinational companies who structure themselves in a way that they don't declare a profit or disclose a profit. So sure. It is a nominal rate that you're then imposing on the company.
Okay, and now you're looking at getting $200 million more a year, right?
That's correct.
It's not going to make a big deal of difference, is it, when you consider core Crown revenue? So the amount the government takes in is about $83 billion. So if you're getting $200 million more a year, that's about 0.2% of core Crown revenue. So it's barely a drop in the bucket, is it?
It's a heap of teachers. It's a heap of nurses and doctors in our health system. It more than pays for the extra police that would go into the police force to get assaults and robberies and burglaries down. It will make a huge difference. It'll go a long way to assisting those 90,000 young people not in work, education, or employment to actually get some skills, get some training, and get them going.
Even though it's a tiny fraction of what the state pulls in any year.
I would never say that $300 million of uncollected tax from multinational corporates is a small amount of money. It is a huge amount of money, and a lot of things can be done with it.
But you use, that figure is before the government has enacted its changes. What it says will gain an extra $100 million a year, right?
Yeah, so Treasury has conservatively estimated that they think there's $300 million uncollected tax from multinational corporates. There are other experts who say it could be up to $1 billion. But let's take the Treasury figure. Government says, right, we're going to go after $100 million of that. We're saying, why be so lacking in ambition? Go for the whole lot. Go for the $300 million a year. So that's what we're doing.
So what do you do if Google or Netflix or Facebook says, nah?
Well, then you have your diverted profit tax law that kicks in. Are they going to leave New Zealand? No, they generate revenue from here, so they're going to be operating here.
Not much compared to their international markets, do they?
Yeah, so then you raise the obvious question. So why would it matter to them? Yeah. It didn't matter to them in the UK when the UK government enacted their diverted profits tax law.
That's a massive market, though, isn't it?
They changed their behaviour.
Yeah, but it's a massive market.
Without
is there a risk?
Enforcement action being taken.
Yeah, but is there a risk? You could understand why you wouldn't want to pull out of the UK. What's the population there? 60 million or something? Higher, I'm being told. But New Zealand, it's not such a big deal, is it?
You know what? I think New Zealanders expect if we're going to have a tax system and hard-working people are going to have to pay their way, pay their tax, they expect everybody who owes tax to be paying their way, including the multinationals. We've got a government at the moment that frankly has dragged the chain on things like foreign trusts. They are very unambitious about going after unpaid tax from multinational corporates. Actually, I think New Zealanders expect better and deserve better.
New Zealanders might.
Why we're making the point that we're
I'm just wondering whether these multinationals are going to care.
They are here generating revenue from the market in New Zealand. They know they have a moral duty, a moral obligation to be contributing to and paying their way. They use New Zealand employees who've been through the New Zealand education system. They're here using our infrastructure and what have you. They benefit from it. And it's about putting the case to them, or in fact not putting the case to them, just reminding them that you want to operate here, you've got to live by the rules that every other taxpayer lives by here.
Okay, you wrote to 50 of them. Did they respond?
No, the letter's only gone out in the last day or so.
Oh, okay.
So we'll
you've
wait
just,
for
you've just sent it. It's in the mail as such.
In the email, yeah.
Okay, you didn't handwrite it, did you, to Facebook? No. So this is all about getting money in, right? It's about getting money in to pay for the social programs and for all the stuff that we want to do. A lot of the focus in that debate over the last few days has been on welfare after the Greens made their announcement. Do you agree with the Greens that benefits should be raised by 20%?
No, it's not what we're promising or what we're planning on. In fact, we'll release our full fiscal plan tomorrow. But we've worked up, I think, with our priorities, particularly in areas like the working for families, the extra things like the winter energy payment to alleviate household poverty for some households.
That. What about the benefit levels? Are they going to go up under your plan?
No, we haven't planned to increase
no rise
those.
in the benefit.
Just said that we haven't planned to increase the benefits. We've addressed some of the hardship issues in different ways with different payments, but we're not planning on a 20% rise in benefit levels.
So in Materia Ture's eyes then, people on the benefit and women on the DPB would still be left under your policy in her eyes of the option that she's been spelling out for us over the last few days of either lying to WINZ or not being able to feed their families, right? I mean, that's what she's saying.
So that's why we've done enhancements on working for families. We've introduced the Best Start payment for families with new children, with a new child. For beneficiaries and for superannuitants, we've introduced the winter energy payment. So there are a number of kind of hardship relief measures wrapped up in that, but we haven't gone as far as saying that we'd do a big hike in benefits in the way that the Green Party talked about over the weekend.
Okay. Could I finish this interview on the polling numbers? We've had this conversation many times about your polling, and you tell me, I met someone in the street who said he was doing brilliantly, and anecdotally you're doing really well, or your internal polling showing you're doing better. Your internal polling was leaked over the weekend, UMR polling, and showed you at 26%. Is that where you think you're at?
Yeah, and there was the Roy Morgan poll that came out on Friday that had us over 30%.
Yeah, but your own polling had you at 26.
Yeah, and that was 27, I think, and that was taken at roughly the same time as I think the previous Colmark Brunton poll. I predicted that we would take a hit after the issue we had with the volunteer interns, and we have taken that hit. The Roy Morgan poll tells a different story in a poll taken 10 days later.
You must be worried about this.
No,
Going into an election at barely better than your last election performance.
No, I'm not, because we've got nearly 10 weeks of an election campaign left, and this election is all about the kind of New Zealand we want, and the issues are going to be about who has got the plan to build more housing, to get people into their own home, whether they're owning or renting, who's going to fix up the schools, who's going to put money into the police force so that we can crack down on the assaults and the burglaries and the robberies. That's what this election is going to be fought on. That's what I'm campaigning very hard on. We have a strong set of policies, we have a strong campaign, and we're campaigning very hard.
And you speculate that Winston Peters leaked that poll?
I haven't speculated anything. There's a reference to the poll being leaked. The Labour Party hasn't received a report on that poll, so it hasn't come from the Labour Party, so it's come from somewhere else.
And you suspect it was Winston, though, you were saying in the media?
Well, he's the one who's talked about it, so that's an obvious place to start. But look, it's not for me to do that.
It is a little bit, because
you
went and called him a blowhard after that. Did you not?
Winston's made a number of commitments over the weekend, and including...
You called him a blowhard, though, didn't you?
And because I think that trotting out the tried and true sort of, yes, we're going to get rid of Māori seats and all that sort of stuff. I mean, for a guy who's been in 3 different cabinets and 2 different parties and 3 different governments, and to trot that out yet again, when actually the real issues for this election, the things that New Zealanders tell me matter to them, are actually about, are we going to get young couples to be able to afford their own home? Are we going to get people to be able to afford to rent anymore? Are we going to lift incomes? Are we going to sort out the police? Those are the issues that are really definitive in this election.
And I raise it with you because you've been on this program in the last couple of weeks saying that a government that you lead would include cabinet ministers from New Zealand First and from the Greens.
Yep.
And here we've got the three of you squabbling, really. New Zealand First and the Greens have had a big spat over who's racist and who's not. Now you're calling Winston a blowhard. It just isn't looking that tidy, is it?
Look, this far out from an election, all the parties are now trying to very clearly distinguish themselves from each other, put out their shingle and be very clear about what they stand for and what they are. This is, and things get very excitable. People are going to say stuff. In the end, I look at the track record that we've had over the last 3 years. We've worked well with both of those parties. We have a lot of common ground when it comes to policy. The campaign clearly is going to be about different emphases, but I am very clear about what our priorities are, and it is about those things that are about giving people opportunity again, giving people hope again.
Hey, thanks so much for your time and for coming and appreciate that. That's Labour leader Andrew Little. It's 21 minutes past 7.
The government is proposing 1,000 people getting the wrong working for families payments each week. It also wants to take child support payments directly from people's pay packets.